Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to FAU Owl Radio for today's presentation of Strictly Sports with Jacob Browne. Today is episode 3.
It's on.
And today we're going to get into a lot of stuff. All right, so anyway, we're going to talk a lot about FAU today, about how they beat their team over this weekend. FIU beat Miami. We're also going to get a lot into the NFL, about college football, about all those other games. We're going to talk about the NBA, basically everything that you could possibly think of that's happened over the last 2 weeks. I'd like to apologize for not putting on a show in the last 2 weeks. We've just had a lot of stuff to do lately, and we couldn't get that up on the air, but we're going to be back this week. We also have a special guest today, Mr. J.P. Acosta, and, of course, C.J. Uri here as always. So, guys, how are you doing today?
I'm feeling great, man. I'm excited. First time being on Strictly Sports. Normally, you'll hear me on Nonstop Sports, and I'm also a writer for University Press, but I'm happy to be on Strictly Sports, man. I'm pretty excited.
I'm doing great today. FAU win this weekend, and Miami Dolphins tanking is in full effect still. So that's good stuff.
Yeah, so let's just get started. So FAU won this weekend. JP, what are your thoughts on that victory for FAU? Well, actually, first of all, let me start by this. So Marshall lost this weekend, and FAU needed a loss for Marshall in order to be eligible to win the east side of the Conference USA, which looks like it might happen. FAU needs to beat Southern Miss this weekend, but what were your takeaways from the game this weekend, JP?
The takeaways for me was it was never really a doubt for FAU if they're going to win or lose this game. The score ended up being 40-26, but even with that score, it doesn't say how much that FAU dominated that game. Despite the large rushing stats that UTSA had, they had to get 192 yards on 38 carries. And one guy that I really, outside of Harrison Bryant, that offensively surprised me was B.J. Emmons. 2 months after breaking his ankle, coming back from surgery, scores 2 touchdowns like he never left. And shout out to B.J. Emmons, but he played great. The offense was clicking on all cylinders. Defense, Miko Dotson with another interception. And, it was a great game. And now we're in the lead for the East Division of Conference USA.
Absolutely. What about you, CJ?
I agree with everything that was said. For me, the biggest takeaway of the weekend is the running game. B.J. Emmons coming back is so huge for the offense. I feel like we've been leaning on Chris Robeson a lot, which he hasn't played bad at all. I'm pretty sure he still has only 1 interception on the year, 1 or 2. His touchdown to interception ratio is incredibly good, but now that we have B.J. Emmons back and we can run the ball consistently, that'll help open up the passing game. But yeah, the biggest takeaway from the weekend in general in Conference USA is Marshall losing to Charlotte and FAU gaining the lead there in Conference USA East and potentially actually hosting that Conference USA game and having that here at FAU Stadium.
Yeah, and I like what you guys are saying about this game. Another thing also that I missed pointing out, Harrison Bryant, tight end for FAU, is eligible for the John Mackey Award, which is awarded to college football's best tight end. Congratulations to him. Well-deserved. And he was one of the keys to winning this weekend.
Yeah, he had 182 yards on 10 catches. He leads college football tight ends in receptions and receiving yards. Personally, putting all bias aside, he's a shoo-in to win. I mean, leading the nation among tight ends in receptions and receiving yards, while without having those touchdown numbers, you got to win at that point. Because for a point there in time, he was the only receiving threat. Like the game against UCF that nobody likes to remember, and I don't like to remember either. But Harrison Bryant was the one guy where UCF, they had to make sure to double team him.
Oh, yeah, they were doubling him like crazy.
Well, something, if you're a voter or if you're a person who decides this award, I'd say the best tape to go look at for Harrison Bryant, especially because, he's up against a guy who played at Washington, Hunter Bryant, who's playing at Washington, and then Miami's Brevin Jordan. Those are the other finalists. Those are Power 5 schools. But go look at Harrison Bryant against Ohio State. They're lining him up far right outside, and he's going up against some first-round talent cornerbacks, and he had his way a few drives there. And there's not many tight ends in the league that can line up over there and be that versatile. So
absolutely. So FAU won the game that they had to win this weekend. I said on Nonstop Sports last week that all FAU could do was win.
Yep.
They can't control anyone else, and the only thing you can do is win. Now, I had no belief that Marshall would lose a game, especially because they beat Louisiana Tech, who I think 8-1, 9-1 before that game, and then they lost to Charlotte. And it just shows you in college football, anything can happen. These guys, you got to remember, they're college kids just like us, and, there's emotional highs and lows. And sometimes in college football, you're going to have some weeks where everyone's on the same page and some weeks where, other things are going on and it doesn't necessarily play out the way you think. But Marshall, man, we thought that game would bite us, and it ended up not biting us. FAU kind of got a break with that one.
Yeah, we got a huge break with that one. It actually comes out pretty well for FAU. We went out and Marshall loses, even though they already lost. If we win out, then we have a chance of hosting the Conference USA title game here in Boca, which is going to be huge considering the fact that we were 5-7, I believe, last year.
Yeah. And
then rebounding off of that to win the East Division and host a Conference USA title game, that'd be phenomenal. And Lane Kiffin should be considered for Coach of the Year. I think we do have to worry about Southern Miss. Southern Miss is a good team.
Yep.
But they got bit by the injury bug really bad against Western Kentucky. They lost 28-10. Their quarterback got hurt amongst a bunch of other guys. They're going to come in injured, and I don't think FAU needs to take this game lightly.
Agreed.
One of the things that I've been saying on the show over the last couple episodes was the personnel difference between FAU and the rest of Conference USA. And, I mean, at the top, you're going to have your Louisiana Tech, your FAU, your Marshall, and, some years North Texas. But in terms of personnel, talent, skill positions, all that, FAU has it all. And, that's off of recruiting, that's off of transfers, things like that. And, the one game that we lost to Marshall, we kind of blew that game anyway on our own merit.
Yeah, well, JP and I were calling that game, man, and we were sitting up there in that booth like 4th and 6.
There were some questionable decisions, but there were also some questionable penalties, which got Lane Kiffin in trouble for saying they were questionable. But
that was fantastic.
At the end of the day, we made some bad decisions. They made bad decisions. The refs made bad decisions. It just so happened that Marshall came out on the good side of that. Yeah,
this is a good thing for FAU is that no matter who they're playing in Conference USA, in my eyes, they're the favorite. All bias aside, it's just a personnel difference for me. And a coaching, too. I mean, you can see it here this past weekend with FIU beating Butch Davis.
Oh, yeah, let's get into that, guys. Continue, CJ.
Well, Butch Davis just severely outcoached Manny Diaz there. And you look at Lane Kiffin has beaten Butch three straight seasons, 35-28, and I think it was 31 or 30. So, in terms of coaching, I mean, I don't know. FAU has it all, and staff, personnel, and I think that they went out, and if we can host that game, that'd be huge just for viewership too.
Yeah, so let's move on into college football, into the grander scope of college football. So a lot of people were thinking this 4 seed's going to come down to Oregon and Utah and Georgia, Oklahoma, and all those teams. Well, Oregon's out. They lost to Arizona State this weekend, which totally shakes up how these college football playoffs are going to work. I mean, I'm not going to say that Oregon was a shoo-in, but they were almost a shoo-in for those playoffs just because Georgia's going to lose that second game. And the committee, they've had a problem in the past with letting in 1-loss teams, much less a 2-loss team, even though Georgia, in my opinion, is probably more talented than Oregon, and that's probably shown now at the very least. But Oregon now not eligible to make the college football playoffs, so really you have a choice of 4 teams. You've got Utah, you've got Bama without Tua, you've got Georgia, who's going to have 2 losses, and I'm just throwing them in there because they're listed right now. And you've got Oklahoma. And the compelling argument about Oklahoma is they are also going to be a 1-loss conference champ. And I watched a video the other day by Joel Klatt. He said if the schedule pans out the way he thinks it will, Oklahoma is going to end up with 4 top 25 wins. That's important. Utah doesn't have that. They're going to be a 1-loss Pac-12 champion, but who do they play?
Not even Alabama has that. But
not even Bama.
I'd say one team that is kind of a dark horse, I guess you could say they're a dark horse, that people should be watching out for is the team Oklahoma beat, Baylor. I think Baylor, because they've already clinched a spot in the Big 12 title game, they're probably going to play Oklahoma again.
So you think if Baylor can win that game, you think they can make the college football playoff?
I think they can because their one loss would be to Oklahoma, which they got revenge on by winning the Big 12 title game. If things shake out a certain way, Baylor could sneak into that 4th spot.
I think the jump is just a lot there for Baylor. They're at ranked 11 right now.
That'd be a huge jump.
Just a big jump. Yeah. The thing that becomes a headache here is Georgia's going to be playing LSU in the SEC championship game. I expect LSU to win. Georgia's a very good football team, and it would be for the college football rankings. It's much better for Georgia to win that game.
Yeah,
because they're at 4. they beat number 1, they would move up to, let's say, number 2, and LSU would probably drop down to 4 or 3. And then your 4 doesn't even change. But seeing LSU beating Georgia, that's when it's like Alabama's at number 5, but they haven't. The one team they played so far this year, they lost to, and then Utah. I don't know if Utah's a program that
That's
really
the
gets
thing,
into
man.
this.
Like, if Utah is the answer now, if they have to be the number 4 seed because Georgia's going to lose, I mean, they're going to get beat in that playoff game.
But for me, I don't even mind Utah making it. Like, if Utah makes it, I'd actually kind of be happy because
I mean, it'd be new blood.
However many years, you've seen the same combo of 4 teams. You've seen
Right.
Clemson, Bama, Oklahoma, and then Georgia, and then like a random 4th.
Well, that goes to the complaints of a lot of college football fans from schools that are not as big, and they're like, we never have a chance. Every year we know it's going to be the same few teams. We never have a chance. This could prove, hey, if a certain year works out a certain way, maybe you can get in. That's what would happen to Utah, JP.
I think Utah could make the college football playoff at number 4, but they would have to dominate that Pac-12 title game. They probably play Oregon. They need a big win in a huge way because their loss, which is at USC, I believe, that's not a good loss when you look back at it.
Yep.
Now,
and that's why a lot of people were praying that USC won this weekend because if they had lost, that's a really bad loss for Utah.
That's a bad loss for Utah, but they would have to win big against Oregon that make themselves look good and say, hey, we're the one-loss Pac-12 champ, and we just beat Oregon by X amount of points. That'd say, hey, we're a good team too. But really the one team that still kind of surprises me is Alabama. They're the hurdle that every other team has to get over because you can still be a conference champion, but if you don't pass the eye test like Alabama does, I get they haven't played a lot of good competition. Their best competition was LSU, and they lost 46-41. But in terms of the eye test, they've only played Duke outside of LSU, but
without the amazing Daniel Jones.
For me,
of course.
For
of
me,
course.
for me, if Utah, say at the end of the season, say Utah and Oklahoma are both conference champions, they're going to have
which one's
edge.
better?
Well, they're going to have. I don't really know about the whole which one's better thing, but Utah or Oklahoma for me are going to have the edge on Bama just off of being conference champions. But the only way for Alabama to make this top 4, to make this college football playoff, is if they literally wipe the floor with Auburn, like so convincingly at the end of the year on rivalry week. This, like, for them to destroy Auburn and then a Utah or an Oklahoma to lose the bowl game. And then at that point, if Alabama's at 5 and they're sitting out on conference championship Saturday, there's a chance for Bama to get in the 4th. But it's just, I just don't. I think that's really unfair to exclude conference champions that are the same record as you and probably have a better schedule than you, because Bama really hasn't played anyone this year. They played LSU, they lost. So
that's where I would agree with you. For Bama to get in, they would have to beat Auburn pretty handily, and I'd say they'd have to have Oregon win that Pac-12 title game, and they'd also have to have Baylor win, because Baylor really, although they were undefeated up until that Oklahoma game, they hadn't looked that impressive. Like, oh, it's still Baylor. If Oregon wins, that means they'd have 2 losses as a Pac-12 champ. At that point, it becomes, who do you want in? Do you want a 2-loss Georgia, who's beaten, I believe, 3 top 25 teams, or a 1-loss Alabama, who's only beaten 2 top 25 teams?
That one loss, the thing for Bama is like that one loss comes from the number 1 team in the country, and you see like a Georgia loss to a South Carolina at home.
Yeah,
so it's like they factor in all this stuff. But for me, it's just extremely like the system is so flawed, because then at that point it's just like, oh, well, their roster's better and they got a better head coach. Well, we're not here to judge that. It's off of the record. And, at the end of this, Oklahoma and Utah probably going to be conference champions, and then they're going to say, I have a higher claim at this 4th spot. But this is the thing that we always wanted, though.
Yeah, well, I think this shows the problems with the selection process, because it's so subjective. Everyone is going to have a different opinion on who's better, who's not. Everyone's going to have stats that support their argument or the other side of the argument. And so I'll pose this question to you guys, and I'll give my opinion as well. Is the 8-team playoff the next option for this? Because, you keep having these debates over who's number 4, who's number 4. Maybe college football wants to expand this, make it 8 teams. Personally, I don't want that. I think it should be an exclusive playoff. The 4 best teams should be in it. And if you really look at what the matchups would be, if it were a 1-8 seeding, it would go the exact same way. Maybe you'd have one upset win in there, but it's going to end up playing out the same exact way as it would have had anyways.
Yeah, a 18 playoff, you still have the same problem. They'd be, who's number 8?
Right.
Who would be that one team that sneak in?
Yeah.
I think you're going to have that
Penn
problem
State
anyway.
is number 8, so you want the 8 seed facing the 1 seed? What's the point? That's a waste of time.
I think with an 18 playoff, you actually eliminate a lot of that stress because the further down you go in the top 10, the more clear it is as to who the better teams are in the top 10. Because you're going to have, you got Michigan, Minnesota, and Baylor there at 11, 10, and 9, and then you got Florida at 8. If it ended
Florida's
today,
not a playoff team.
but UF. I always will. I will say this to the day I die. UF defense and the crowd and the running game, the O line, they have it to play against these teams. They went into LSU and they still put up, I'd say, 27, 35 points. LSU.
That is true.
I
With
mean,
a different quarterback.
Florida has the talent to play there. They may not have the wins, but right now it would be Florida, Oklahoma, Utah, Bama, Georgia, Clemson, Ohio State, LSU is the 18 playoff. Leaving out Minnesota and Michigan, I personally would be fine with that.
Yeah, they're not playoff teams either.
I don't mind an 18 playoff whatsoever. I think it's better for college football.
Look, it's inevitable. It's going to happen, but
people are going to be calling for it though if Alabama sneaks in at 4.
I think you have a big problem with the 18 playoff. Not even with seeding, it becomes okay. So, say, Ohio State plays a team like Florida in the first round of the playoff. Ohio State wins, but Justin Fields gets injured. Next week, they have to play and they lose. The excuse is going to be, we were without our starting quarterback. So you're taking all those guys and you're risking them getting injured or them having any other chance where they're not playing that game, and you're basically amplifying it more. It's probably going to go to an 18 playoff. I think the 4 is fine now.
They're only playing essentially one more game, right?
I mean, there is an argument here from some of the more traditional college football fans that this eliminates the point of a conference championship. They're essentially meaningless if you have an 18 playoff, because then automatically all 5 conference champions are going to be 5 of the 8 seeds.
Well,
so
say like the ranked number 10 team wins
right.
the conference championship against a good a high ranking team as well, and then say UF didn't win the conference championship, then they would slot forward. So I still see the conference championship, bragging rights, the trophy, the whole thing.
I think for that purpose, I'm saying in terms of the playoffs, because automatically if you win your conference, you're in.
Yeah, that's what it should be. If you win your Power 5 conference, you're in. And then they could add probably 3 more of those group of 5 or those non-power or those automatic bids. It's like the NCAA basketball tournament. You don't win your conference, but it's an automatic bid.
I could see that saying if you win the Power 5, it's an automatic bid. I can see that.
Yeah, and then the other 3 are just, who's the other 3 best teams.
It's non-automatic, but
rest.
It's the best of the rest, essentially. But then you'd be stuck with that same point of saying, are they better than them? Because although they've had Team A has had a harder schedule, Team B has had the better eye test. It would be in the same position.
Absolutely. So now let's get into the NFL draft, because we were talking about that outside. So right now I'm just going to go through the top 5. Right now, the Bengals are projected to pick Joe Burrow from LSU. To me, it's obvious he's the number 1 guy.
Yeah.
Number 2, my Giants right now have the pick. Please don't blow it, Giants. Just keep losing so we can get the number 2 pick and draft Chase Young. Please.
Generational talent will be wearing a gold jacket.
Yes, for sure. And the Giants need to take advantage. At number 3, they have the Dolphins drafting Tua Tagovailoa. At number 4, offensive tackle from Georgia, Andrew Thomas to Washington. And at number 5, Justin Herbert. Going to Denver, and that makes sense a lot with John Elway.
That's
such
an
Elway
Denver
pick, man. I mean,
man.
he likes his big, tall quarterbacks. Peyton Manning, Brock Osweiler, Paxton Lynch. They're all these tall guys. Same thing.
You know, the funniest part of that is they have another Justin Herbert sitting right now, Drew Lock, who they picked last year in the 2nd round, who's the same size as Justin Herbert. So I don't think they should draft Justin Herbert, but you never know with John Elway. If you're 6'4" or above and have a strong arm, you're probably going to get drafted by Denver.
You're right.
There's for in terms of quarterbacks, there's another quarterback in this draft that I think is going to a couple teams are going to fall in love with him, and I think that he is much better than people are giving him credit for. Jordan Love, Utah State. A lot of teams really like him. He's very athletic, and those athletic quarterbacks in the NFL are translating well. But
I mean, I like him. I just don't think he gets drafted ahead of Herbert.
Oh no, he won't.
Yeah,
he
right.
Won't.
Jordan Love scares me. It's the same thing with Josh Allen coming out of Wyoming. He has all the traits, but when you line him up against other talent on his same level, he doesn't play very well.
Oh, we've seen that this year,
And
yeah.
we've seen that this year. He has a strong arm.
Well,
Such a strong arm.
I will defend Josh Allen. I hate pains me to say it, but I will defend Josh Allen in the right of out of Baker Mayfield, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, and Sam Darnold, Josh Rosen. He's
He might be
obviously Lamar Jackson's the most successful quarterback to come out of that draft class, but Josh Allen, you have an argument for the number 2.
He's the second best quarterback in that draft
That is
class.
pretty sad, man. I mean, there were people before that draft saying all 4 of these guys are future all-stars
generational
leading their
talents,
franchises.
Well,
Wow.
I think a lot of those guys still can be. Lamar Jackson's already proven that
Oh,
he
Lamar
is.
is.
Lamar
Yeah,
Jackson.
Lamar is.
Josh
yeah.
Allen, you can ask anybody. I've been the biggest Josh Allen hater. I don't think he's that good. He's improved, especially in the short yardage and medium yardage accuracy. But when you're heralded as such a guy with, he can throw the deep ball and then only complete 26% of the deep ball passes, you
Not
got a
good.
problem there. But he's the second best quarterback from that draft class.
Not to continue to veer away from this year's draft. I also don't really like the receiver talent that he's had there as well. Brown's had a good year this year,
And
but
Beasley's
they
okay.
need a deep threat guy. You got to have a deep
They
threat
need-
guy
they
to
need
get
a
this,
receiver.
They do.
But
They do need
anyway,
a
But
receiver.
who wants to go to Buffalo in free agency? That's the question.
They're not gonna. They're not
they're
gonna
paying money.
get a receiver in Buffalo.
But in terms of this draft, as a Dolphins fan, I have gone through all the possibilities at the 3, the 4. I'm praying to God that they do take Tua Tagovailoa, but I think that this injury has put a lot of doubt in the front office's head. I can see the Dolphins drafting Justin Herbert. I can totally see it. I mean, what's not to like about the guy in terms of the arm strength and the height and the athleticism? 4-year guy, graduated college. He's really what you want in a QB, but I kind of agree with that. That was from Tankathon.com.
Right, yes.
Yeah.
For this
Yeah.
list, by the way, the mock draft from Tankathon.com.
I agree with it. I mean, if the Giants do get Chase Young, that's huge. They need a guy on the other side of the ball.
Well, it doesn't fix all of the
It
Giants'
doesn't-
problems.
Miami
they got a lot
has
more
so
than
much
that.
bigger
They couldn't even beat a
problems.
quarterback that can't do anything this weekend.
Yeah. But I forget which guy on Fox Sports was saying it. I'm pretty sure it's Colin Cowherd. But, at the end of the day, like the Thursday night game, the Colts defense played well. But at the end of the day, who had the better quarterback?
Exactly. That's a perfect segue. I was actually just about to get into that game specifically.
Exactly.
So,
I mean, the Colts have a better head coach. They have a better coaching staff overall.
yep.
Best
They have a
offensive line. in
Great
Better
football.
offensive line,
but
better
who's
team.
making the plays? The quarterback, and that's what it comes down to in the NFL. That's what it comes down to.
So the Texans, like CJ just mentioned, beat the Colts 20-17, essentially ending the division race at this point. It looks like Texans are going to run away with that division now. Other key games this weekend, you have the Saints barely beating the Panthers 34-31. That came down to the last seconds. That could have affected things. You have the Seahawks beating the Eagles 17-9. So what I've said is the Eagles could lose a game to the Seahawks and still make the playoffs just based off of their schedule. If you look at the Eagles' schedule, they have 4 free wins left on that schedule. And if you look at the Cowboys, I think now basically what it's going to come down to is the final Cowboys and Eagles matchup. Whoever wins that game is going to win the division. But the Seahawks took care of business 17-9 on Sunday. You had the Redskins pulling an upset against the Lions, which helped the Giants in the draft. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Sorry, JP. The Titans blew out the Jags. And then the Patriots beat the Dallas Cowboys 13-9 as well. JP's face, I know we're on radio, guys, but JP is just depressed over his Jaguars getting blown out by the Titans. But anyway, the Patriots beat the Cowboys 13-9. I picked the Cowboys last minute on my Twitter. So dumb. I always
You
tell
shouldn't
people,
have said
never
anything.
bet against Tom Brady
You
and the
shouldn't have
Patriots,
said
and I did.
anything.
For some reason, a lot of people, though, we'll get into that in a second. A lot of people are amounting that loss to the phantom tripping call, which it was a phantom
Yeah.
tripping call. That was awful.
Yeah, that wasn't tripping, man.
It was not tripping. But and then finally, Sunday Night Football last night, the
Woof.
Packers just, oh, my God,
Woof.
they dominated the Packers.
49ers defense.
My
is
goodness,
Good
they're legit.
Lord.
And that's without
I guess
D.
the
Ford
Patriots,
and
but-
Quan Alexander.
That's the biggest thing for me with that 49ers defensive line. 6 of those guys can make the Pro Bowl just
Yeah.
from the D line.
Yeah.
D Ford didn't even play.
No.
and they have like 4 or 5 guys that are close to 10 sacks on the season.
Yeah, and some people are saying, listen, the Green Bay offensive line is banged up. Balaga left early in the game, and they already had pre-existing injuries. But no, I mean, that Niners D-line was dominant.
And you could tell because the biggest thing that I said for the Packers to win that game was they had to protect Aaron Rodgers.
Yep.
The game they lost earlier to the Chargers, they couldn't protect Aaron Rodgers. That Niners defense, especially defensive line, is nasty.
Well,
They're going to give everybody fits.
A huge thing for the Packers this year has been their 1-2 punch at running back with Aaron Jones and Jamal Williams, and they couldn't get anything going last night. As an owner of Aaron Jones, I didn't even need to watch the game, and I knew they couldn't get anything going last night. And that's a huge thing for Aaron Rodgers. I mean, I'm not saying that Aaron Rodgers is like, the guy's showing age or anything like that. He's still playing Aaron Rodgers level football, but when you have 2 running backs, and that's a lot of your offense the whole year is a two-headed, the 1-2 punch. It's like an upgraded Sony Michel, James White that they have over in Green Bay. And, they're not getting anything on the ground. And then the second that 49ers defense knows you're passing the ball every play, they're going to get to Aaron Rodgers. And, yeah, I don't know. The 49ers defense is legit, and they are fully staking their claim over a home field advantage in
Next
the
week,
NFC.
Niners Ravens.
That is going to be the game of the regular season, man.
Phenomenal game,
right? And we'll talk about that now, I guess, because that's what we've been waiting to talk about. So, Niners and Ravens are facing next week in a key game. Now, this doesn't affect any division race between the two teams. It's just going to be an amazing game. AFC versus NFC, Super Bowl rematch from a few years ago. Where is this game? Is it in Baltimore or San Francisco?
I'm checking right now.
It's probably in Baltimore because
I think it might be in Baltimore.
Yeah, because San Francisco's had 2 key games at home, so I'm assuming it's on the road. But anyway, I mean, this game's going to be amazing. Lamar Jackson, and I love him, but this game, if he wins this, my goodness, that's 5 legitimate teams that he will have beaten in 1 year. And to me, if the Ravens win this game, they're not just going to the Super Bowl; they are Super Bowl favorites to win.
Yeah,
if they beat the Niners.
I was texting you last night.
Yep.
That the 2 quarterbacks that gave the 49ers defense the absolute most trouble. Obviously, Russell Wilson won. The Seahawks won.
Yep.
But that second game against Arizona in 3 weeks, Kyler Murray looked phenomenal. They went out to a 16-0, 19-0 lead right at to start off the game, and Kyler Murray was just moving the chains. So that, you don't see quarterbacks like that every week, like a Russell Wilson or Kyler Murray or Lamar Jackson, who's going to move the ball down the field, not only through his arm, but through the ground. I honestly think, and my prediction is Lamar Jackson's going to have a monstrous game. 49ers are an overall team, a great overall team. They could score with anyone, and they could play with anyone, but I don't know. I think Lamar Jackson in the Baltimore Ravens win that game.
This is going to be definitely the best defense he's faced.
That's the biggest thing.
He played the Patriots and still put up 37.
The way to beat a great pass rush is to have a quarterback who can move. That's always been, like, this year we've seen the 49ers, great pass rush. Russell Wilson was able to move in the pocket. If you can't move in the pocket as a quarterback against a great pass rush, you're dead meat. But the biggest thing about the Ravens is they're so diverse in their offense. They'll go an extra lineman, extra tight ends, and run the ball at you, or they'll go spread offense and they'll throw the ball deep to Hollywood Brown. I think it's going to be a great matchup between both offensive and defensive coordinators. Greg Roman going up against Robert Saleh and his 49ers defense, but also Kyle Shanahan and his run-heavy offense against that Ravens defense who excels at run blitzing. They blitz a lot in general, but especially on run downs. I think that defense could have a really tough time against an offense that runs the ball like in such diverse ways. The ways Kyle Shanahan was able to get his guys open, like George Kittle coming off a broken ankle, had a wide open touchdown pass, best tight end in football. But the way he's able to design guys open is going to cause the Ravens defensive coordinator fits. But that's going to be something fun to see.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we got another key game next weekend. We got Raiders at Chiefs, and the Raiders are 6-5. The Chiefs are 7-4. If the Raiders win, I don't think the Raiders will win, but if they do, they will be tied record-wise at the top of that division. Something to look out for there. Sunday Night Football next week is Patriots at Texans. I think this is going to be an interesting game too, because we've been saying New England, the only team that they have struggled against is a quarterback that can move, Lamar Jackson. Now he's getting Deshaun Watson. We'll see, and it's in Houston, so that'll be an interesting game. And then Monday Night Football next week is Minnesota at Seattle, which is another huge test for Seattle. In my opinion, I like Seattle more than New Orleans even. Just watching Russell Wilson, in the pocket, the way he carries himself, I want him in there at quarterback with 2 minutes left in the game more than anyone else in the league. Don't tell me it's Drew Brees anymore. He's older. He's not as effective anymore. Don't get me wrong. He's still great. He's a Hall of Famer. But if you look at it right now, Russell Wilson is a step ahead, and he is bringing a Seahawks team that isn't even as good as the Saints. He's making them better.
Well, yeah, I would say that right now in the NFL, Russell Wilson, if there was a Mr. Clutch title,
It's him.
Mr. Clutch award, it would be Russell Wilson. A guy just has ice in his veins. Going down, he makes every throw, he makes every play. Even when they were playing the 49ers, there was no one open on this one play, and he, busted loose for like 18, 20 yards, and that was like the deciding factor. So I completely agree on the Russell Wilson train there.
Yeah.
As much as I want to say Russell Wilson in terms of clutch moments, number 12 in New England still exists.
Yeah.
Although he hasn't played
Figure
at that
out.
same level, with 2 minutes left in the game and it is close, you gave him too much time because he's going to drive the field precision. It's not going to be beating you with sheer athleticism or arm talent anymore. He's going to beat you with his mind. That's the scariest thing. He's going to beat you with his mind. He's going to throw 10-yard passes to receivers that are running backs and N'Keal Harry, and he's going to go down and score a touchdown on you, and you're going to lose the game.
I can agree with the Tom Brady still being that Mr. Clutch guy, but it's not really, for me, it's not Tom Brady. It's the guys who he has around him. Who does Tom Brady have around him? If they needed, say there's 45 seconds left in the game, huge game, and he's got to drive down the field. No more Gronk. They had AB for a game. I don't know. I don't see it in terms of the talent level around him, and this is their worst O-line in years. Just literal years.
Oh, yeah, it's bad. It's bad.
It's bad. So I think I just give the nod to Russell Wilson off the talent that's around him, too. And, props to DK Metcalf for helping out at that offense.
He's got Metcalf. He's got Chris Carson, Rashad Penny. The offensive line is developing as usual.
The Hollister guy.
As much as
like
I said, as much as I would say Seattle does have a better surrounding cast, but that's the scariest thing about Tom Brady. He's making these guys these dudes who we've never heard of look so much better than they actually are.
Yep.
And in the last 2 minutes, he's going to throw the ball to James White out the backfield. He's going to go for 10 yards every play. They're going to get out of bounds. It's happening. You see it when he comes onto the field. You're like, oh, no. It's going to happen again. But I think one quarterback that we're kind of not talking about in this last 2 minutes conversation is Patrick Mahomes. And
I don't know about that.
That's
what
because
big game has he won?
It's not because the big games that he's won. It's the fact that he can go 100. He can go 75 yards on you in one play.
Yeah, well, him and Tyreek, if they hook up, that's
that offense can go 75 in one play. That's the biggest thing.
There's been so many times where you haven't even needed to see Patrick Mahomes be clutch just because their team is just miles away at the end of the game.
Yeah.
So it's like I just feel like I've seen these kind of quarterbacks we're talking about here that have been in the league for a little bit longer that are just like you've seen them play these bigger games, primetime games, and like had to lead a drive. But yeah, I agree. Patrick Mahomes is up there. He's definitely top 5 just because of quarterback ability. The guy doesn't. There could be 30 seconds left on the clock. He'll still play like he's normally playing.
And that's what the clutch QB do the best. They're always themselves no matter what time of the game. So now we're going to shift into the NBA, and this is something I've wanted to talk about for a while: load management in the NBA, because there's been a lot of people complaining about Kawhi Leonard this year sitting key games against teams, for knee contusions. That's essentially what the Clippers are saying. A lot of people think maybe Kawhi's making up some of these injuries just so he can have an excuse to sit some of these games. He's sitting games against the Jazz, against the Bucks. These are important games that you should be winning if you're the Clippers. You need to get this team into chemistry. Just the other night was the first time that they all played together. And I know Paul George was injured for a little bit to start the season, but that was the first time that Kawhi actually played with the entire team. Now, I'm for load management. I get it. There's a lot of guys that have bodies that just don't last. But I think in order to fix that, instead of having guys sit out 20 to 25 games a year and have fans show up to the arena very disappointed that they're not seeing the guy that they paid for, maybe you bring the games down to maybe 65, 70. Now, I saw a proposal the other day that the NBA is actually thinking about changing the playoff format moving the season from 82 to 78 games, doing in-season tournaments. I haven't looked into it that much. I'm not for that. I want the playoff format to stay the same. I think if you go 1 through 16, again, like we were saying with the college football rankings, it's the same thing. Yeah. 1 through 16, 1 through 8, you're still going to have those matchups that aren't fair. But anyway, getting back to load management, I just think there's a place for it. Just bring back the games. Go from 82 to 65 so that Kawhi has that time to rest.
Well, the reason – all right, you can go.
No, you can start. I have a strong opinion about it, but you start. You start off.
Well, I was going to say the reason for adding those in-season tournaments is because 82 games, most of those games don't matter.
They don't matter at all.
That's why I'm for load management. One, because most of the games don't matter. I mean, if you're sitting out a game against, not to bash on the Knicks, but if you're sitting out against the Knicks.
Do it.
You're go ahead. You're going to win the game. But it's also due to they need that time for their bodies to rest. I'm not sure how it works in baseball, but I know, in the playoffs, they'll have a pitcher pitch one game, and then they'll have rest for a certain period of time.
Well,
and then
not just
back.
that in baseball, but guys have random off days all the time. There's 162 games. The Yankees, I can go to a Yankee game, and Gleyber Torres and Aaron Judge might not be in the lineup. That's just the way baseball works.
And the schedule is built so they have a bunch of there'll be games where they play back to back to back.
Yeah.
You need those games in between or players are going to get injured. So I'm for it. I don't think that little mini playoff thing will work, although I see the reasoning behind it. But
if it ain't broke, don't fix it, man.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Because everyone's addressing this problem that the conference finals have been better than the NBA finals in the last few years. I would seriously doubt that. If you look at the ratings for the NBA finals, they keep going up, people. I think people are liking the current format. But anyway, CJ, what your opinion on load management?
So you're for it.
Yeah, I'm for it.
Okay, so I'm fully for it, and here is my main argument. Derrick Rose the other day tweeted or said something. I don't know if he tweeted it or said
I know what you're talking about.
I know what you're talking about too.
He said if there was load management around towards my prime, in his prime, he would still be on the Chicago Bulls. So, to the people who are complaining and that they show up to the arena and the team sheet comes out or around a couple hours before, you've already had the tickets, whatever, and say Kawhi Leonard's not playing, LeBron's not playing, Joel Embiid's not playing, whoever it might be, ask yourself this question. Do I want him to sit out this game so he can extend his prime, or do I want him to play when he probably shouldn't play and cut his prime short, and he'll be a journeyman at the tail end of his career?
Yeah.
For me, I'm like, what's there to lose? Your team's still going to win, and you might not get to see so and so play, but you're going to be able to see him play longer than he probably would.
Yeah.
I think it's whoever complains about load management. Probably just never played.
Here's the thing: you can't
sports.
deny the
Or
logic
works
of
one day a week.
Yeah,
the thing is, you can't deny the logic of load management. It makes complete sense. There's no reason why these NBA stars need to be playing games against teams that have no chance of beating them. And so I completely agree with load management from that standpoint. But now let's talk about the rest of the league. So right now, the Los Angeles Lakers are dominating. They recently moved Kentavious Caldwell-Pope to shooting guard to start. And he's been averaging 13.2 points a game since he's been starting, which the LeBron effect. But LeBron's been playing great at point guard. This is year 17, and he said, you know what, sure, I'll switch positions if you want me to. And he might be one of the best point guards in the league. He might be one of the best players in the league again, if not the best.
He's still the best.
Still the best. I mean, you can't take that away. Okay, LeBron James is the best player in basketball. They're making the playoffs. And the question is, though, are they better than the Clippers? Because, again, like you said, JP, the regular season really doesn't matter. So the Clippers and the Lakers are both going to make the playoffs. Who's better?
I think it's just early to say which team is
really,
better. It's really early to say.
And the Andre Iguodala acquisition, because the rumor is he's going to go to one of those two teams. Wherever he goes, that heavily impacts the decision.
Yeah, I was going to say the Lakers match up really well against the Clippers.
Yeah.
And it's not in favor of the Clippers. I think the Lakers, with the amount of size that they have, the Clippers have Montrezl Harrell and Ivica Zubac as their two main big men. And the Lakers could go out there and trot out LeBron, Anthony Davis, Dwight Howard, who's playing
possibly
absolutely
Boogie in the
great.
playoffs, we've heard.
JaVale McGee. You might get Boogie Cousins back for the playoffs. That's a dominant that's a dominant big man group that they have. At one point in the game, if Boogie Cousins comes back, you could start Boogie, AD, and LeBron. And that doesn't match up well for the Clippers.
It does not at
so
all.
I think personnel-wise, the Lakers have the edge, but we got to see it on the court multiple times.
What I keep thinking though is, out of the four, who's the best three-point shooter? Because this is a three-point shooting league. Paul George is the best of the four, and Kawhi is better than LeBron and AD at shooting threes. So
yeah,
that might make a difference later on when you need that shot at the end of the game. LeBron and AD and Boogie and Dwight, they're not the guy that's going to hit that three. Who do the Lakers have?
Yeah, for the Lakers-Clippers debate, I'm going to give it to the Clippers. Sorry. I don't know why I said the Clippers. The Lakers. Sorry, the Lakers. Sorry. Oh, gosh. So, and here's why. LeBron James, that dunk that he had in the Mavericks game in overtime, that right there was like oh, wow. That's a LeBron James off a clean offseason where he didn't carry a team for like 3 straight 7-game series. He actually had a break.
Did you guys see that dunk he had against, I think it was the Kings or something, where he dunked on the dude?
My God. He's
The
LeBron again, guys.
You can see he's on a mission. And the last time that LeBron James had like a teammate, I mean, he had Kyrie. I don't really know if Kyrie and him gelled that well in Cleveland. I don't think they ever did. But you go back to when LeBron James was in Miami, and he had prime D-Wade for like 1 or 2 years there. Like real prime D-Wade for like 1 or 2 years.
Right.
They gelled on the court. You saw all those highlights of the alley-oops and the passes and whatnot, and he looked like he was having fun out there. With AD, I see that again.
Yes.
Anthony Davis is a guy who's in his prime.
Together.
He looks comfortable playing with him. And the only thing, when you guys brought up DeMarcus Cousins, what happened to Chris Bosh when Chris Bosh came to Miami was, if you guys remember, Chris Bosh in Toronto was a beast. The guy was down low, dunking on people, step back shots, like Dirk Nowitzki type shots. But when he went to Miami, he was flushed out to the 3-line.
You can say the same thing about Kevin Love too.
Yeah, Kevin Love turned into a 3-point shooter. Chris Bosh made a lot of his points off 3-point shooting when he was in Miami, because you can't have an Anthony Davis and a Boogie Cousins down low, because LeBron needs the whole lane cleared. He needs the guy's going to take flight from wherever, So I hope that when Boogie Cousins comes back, they don't try to over-involve him, which will end up hurting LeBron's game. But as of right now, I think the Lakers are the best team in the West, and they're the best team in LA, and they're the best team in that arena.
And if you look at the Eastern Conference, right now the Milwaukee Bucks and the Philadelphia 76ers are atop of that, as everyone predicted. And that's also going to be a battle. Who's better? Personally, I'm on the Milwaukee Bucks side. Only reason I say that is because they have a lot of big guys, and those big guys can shoot. Ilyasova off the bench. Giannis is getting better at 3. Brook Lopez, a center, can shoot threes. The 76ers have big men, but Embiid can't shoot threes. Ben Simmons can't shoot threes.
Oh, we know Ben Simmons
Al Horford is okay at shooting threes. I mean, if you're getting down the stretch, like I said, it's a 3-point shooters league, and the question is, I think the Bucks just have a little bit of everything. They've got shooting, they've got big men, they've got the star in Giannis, who I think is better than anyone on Philadelphia. I think he's better than Embiid, and Milwaukee's going to win.
That's my thing. With the East, right now, the top 5 go the Bucks, Celtics, Heat, Raptors, Sixers.
Yeah, and we'll talk about the Heat in a second.
Especially in the Eastern Conference, it depends on, is your best player better than everybody else on the court? The Bucks have the best player in the Eastern Conference.
Yes.
He is better than everybody else he steps on the court against. That's why they're going to win, because they have the best player on the court every time they play.
The East is really fun because it's super wide open.
Yeah.
And for a while, the East was kind of like a lull. Like it was very dreary.
It was the
it was the
Heat,
Cavs.
then the Cavs.
But you just knew it was the Cavs for a few years because of LeBron. That was it, just because of LeBron. But now you have the Sixers. You got the Bucks, and I, not being biased, my Miami Heat are playing unreal team basketball.
I'm not a Heat fan. They're fantastic.
They are truly playing great team basketball, and they are a very good defensive team. But out of the two, I actually like the Sixers in a series, a 7-game series.
Okay.
I think Giannis is one of those guys where, I'm not going to equate him to Harden or like a Russell Westbrook, like off of like regular season scoring. The guy lights it up in the regular season. Like Giannis, and like he's just incredible. In the playoffs, like I know he was up against Kawhi Leonard in that series, the Raptors against the Bucks, right? In the Eastern Conference Finals. That's who they played, right? That was the Eastern Conference Finals last year. So Kawhi really limited Giannis there, and I don't remember, what, does it go to Game 7?
It went to Game 6.
Game 6. So that team, I just feel like they rely so heavily on Giannis that I'm going to give the edge to the Sixers because I feel like they play a little bit better team ball. They're able to spread out the scoring. It's not like cluttered scoring where it's like Giannis is going to drop has to drop a specific amount of points probably for us to win. Anybody on the Sixers, there's a few guys on the Sixers that can pop off. You got Tobias Harris, you got Joel Embiid, and
Tobias Harris.
I like Ben Simmons a lot, but that's just me.
Hey, and of course, Ben Simmons had to make his first career 3 against the Knicks.
Well, I mean, if you're gonna do it
Good
against any team, the Knicks
Gotta be
is
the
probably the best option
And
for
Richard
you.
Jefferson the other day, he came out and he said the reason he retired is because the only other option was playing for the Knicks, and he said, "You know what? I'd rather retire." Unbelievable.
I was thinking about the Giannis in the playoffs, and I think Giannis averaged like a double-double in the playoffs. It wasn't the same level
It's
of
the
dominance.
clutch shooting
but
that he needs to get. Yeah.
he still averaged a double-double.
Might not
So we're
even
not
be the-
saying he played horrible.
No, I'm not saying at all that he played bad. I just feel like, when you get to the deeper part of the playoffs, it's completely it goes away from, all right, I'm Giannis and I'm going to drop this amount of points. It's, I'm Giannis and I'm going to drop this amount of points. What are the other guys on my team going to do? When you're the Raptors in that series, you know what's going to Giannis is going to bring the ball down the court and he's going to take the shot. He might not have the ball for the first 20 seconds of that 24 shot clock. He's going to take the shot at the end. That's what I'm saying. The balance of the scoring, spread the ball around, and that's why I'm just not fully convinced on the Bucks making it to the finals.
Yep.
There's no player. I think the Bucks are going to go to the finals from the Eastern Conference. I said that at the beginning of the season. There's no player in the Eastern Conference that's on that Kawhi level that can stop Giannis except for Giannis. So I think if there's one other team, putting aside Heat fan bias, that could make the finals, it'd be the Sixers, but they have a lot of questions to me.
Agreed.
I just think
They need a bench.
What do you think of us?
Embiid and Ben Simmons, I don't think they can coexist. Embiid plays so much better when he's in the post back to the basket. Ben Simmons can't shoot outside of 12 feet. He needs the box to operate. I know he's a great ball handler and can pass the ball around, but when it comes to scoring, he needs that lane. He needs those blocks to operate. And now that you have all these front court guys packed in, you have no space for those guys to operate. And also the fact they don't have a bench. That doesn't help at all.
What are your thoughts on, just genuinely, both of your thoughts on if the Miami Heat and the Bucks were matched up in I doubt it's going to be the first round, second or third round of the playoffs, a Jimmy Butler versus Giannis duel in the playoffs, 7-game series. What do you think would happen? What would your predictions be?
6 games, Bucks win.
I
6
say
games, 4-2.
Huh?
4-2?
Yeah. Either that or
I'm
maybe
going
even 5.
Bucks 7.
Really?
I
think
think the
you
Heat
really
really
think
think
they'll
7.
bring him
They
there?
they're really good.
The Heat don't have to throw Jimmy Butler at Giannis. That's the biggest thing. They can throw a bunch of guys at Giannis.
Yeah, maybe the way to beat Giannis
Justice
is with a team.
Winslow can guard. Justice Winslow is a great defender. Bam Adebayo has been
Great
playing on
defender.
another level, an elite big man defender. And you got Jimmy Butler. You can throw those 3 guys at Giannis and give him fits. The thing that I think Boston did it when LeBron was in Cleveland in the early years. They threw a bunch of guys at LeBron. He didn't know who he was going to get. He got a bunch of guys hitting him with the ball. As soon as he touched the ball, he had a bunch of different guys. He may have had Paul Pierce. He may have had Tony Allen. He may have somebody else on a different time. The Heat can do that.
Mm-hmm.
I think it'll be a 7-game series, but I just think their best player is a lot better than the Heat's best player, and
Yep,
that's going to come
difference.
out.
That's always the difference in the NBA. So we are now in about the last 10 minutes of the show, so we're going to go into a little bit of baseball, and I'm going to start off with the White Sox. The Chicago White Sox agreed to terms with catcher Yasmani Grandal on a 4-year deal. It's actually their most expensive free agent contract ever in the history of the White Sox. Remember last season they tried to get Manny Machado, offered him $300 million. He said no and went to San Diego. So now to me, if you're the White Sox, use that $300 million that you were going to give to Machado and use it on 3 or 4 guys. They've already started with Grandal. If you look at their roster, they've got him at catcher. He's a top 10 catcher. Jose Abreu, their first baseman, is a top 10 first baseman. Yohan Moncada at third base, top 5, 6 at third base. Tim Anderson, top 10 shortstop. He's great. Eloy Jimenez came up last year, 32 bombs as a rookie in left field. He's like a top 5 left fielder. They've got Luis Robert, a prospect in AAA, coming up this year. He also could be a top 10 center fielder by the end of the year. They have Nick Madrigal, a second base prospect in the minor leagues. He also could be a top 10 second baseman by the end of the year. A lot of people comparing him to Jose Altuve. So if I look at the White Sox here, you've got already, even without the 2 prospects, you've got 5, 6, 7 good hitters on there. Also, didn't even mention James McCann, who was their catcher last year, who is also a top 10 catcher. The main problem with the White Sox is their starting pitching and their bullpen. They've got Lucas Giolito at the top, and that's great. You got an ace. But you have 4 open rotation spots, essentially, that can be filled by 5 different guys they have right now. They have Carlos Rodon. He's been on and off the field, can't stay on. He's been inconsistent. And then they have 4 rookies in there that have all struggled at the big league level that they're going to need at least 2 or 3 to pan out. So if I'm the White Sox, this is what I do. I go out, and with that extra money that you have, you get 1 to 2 starting pitchers, 1 to 2 bullpen guys, and maybe if you have enough money left behind, you go out and you nab Nick Castellanos off the free agent market, right fielder. The White Sox have an opening there. He's a tremendous hitter. Man, already, man, I'm looking at this AL Central, and last year I called the Twins really early to win that division over the Indians, and people call me crazy. White Sox are going to win the AL Central if they get pitching.
Ooh,
the White Sox
nice
were
pick.
a triple-digit loss team last year, 62 and 100.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not the most familiar about the MLB, but from what you've explained, this reeks of what my Miami Marlins used to be, with Giancarlo Stanton, Christian Yelich, and Ozuna in the outfield, Justin Bour at first base, and then JT Realmuto catcher. That's you got 5 or 6 guys right there that are unbelievable hitters. No one to pitch.
That's the question. I'm saying
that's
they're
the
not
big
going to win the AL
question.
Central right now. They need starting pitching.
If they
and
had
bullpen.
starting pitching, I mean, they got the hitting, and at that point, that's good chemistry right there.
Well, do you think they go after the star power in pitching, or do they go after depth?
Well,
say
I don't think they have the money to go after the top tier guys in
say
Strasburg and Cole, sadly. Also, the rumors that have been going around right now is that Garrett Cole is most likely going to the West Coast. He grew up there, so it looks like he might either go to the
Angels.
Dodgers or the Angels.
If he goes to the Dodgers, oh my God.
I just hope that.
Oh my God.
And if the Dodgers didn't win a World Series then they will never win a World Series again. I mean, how many times you got to try before it doesn't work? But
as a casual MLB fan, I'm just hoping that we can see Mike Trout in like a real playoff run.
please
Just
get
as
Mike
a casual,
Trout some
as
players.
a casual, I don't even really watch baseball, but I know that guy is incredible, and I love watching him play. And I just would like to see him on the big stage.
Absolutely. So now getting away from a little bit of that part of baseball. So there have been some developments with the Astros sign-stealing problem, and I'm not going to rant like I did the other day. Don't worry,
Oh,
JP.
man.
Okay? I screamed on Nonstop
Oh,
Sports.
yeah.
Man. I got
it was
angry.
beautiful.
Yep. But
If you didn't see it, we got it on the Twitter page. We got our YouTube show.
yes, please, by the way, pimp out your show, JP.
Yeah, Nonstop Sports FAU. Follow it on Twitter at Sports FAU. We also have a YouTube channel where we post all the shows It's called Nonstop Sports FAU. We just posted the latest one. You can hear Jacob rant like he's not about to now, but I'm not making any promises on that.
So the developments are right now is essentially last week when I was talking about it, it was not official yet that the investigation was going into all 17, 18, and 19. I thought last week the investigation was just into 2017, but I said, you know what? If they were doing it in 17, they were doing it in 18, and if they were doing it in 18, they were doing it in 19, and now baseball agrees with me. They are watching all 3 years of footage. Someone is going down. That is all I will say. Someone's going down. I don't know about lifetime bans because it's very difficult. I was watching the Michael Kay show last week, and he threw out that they might throw the Astros a $50 million fine. That's a rumor right now, to the owner, by the way. The reason being that's part of their World Series profit.
Yeah.
So if you won a World Series and cheated, we're going to take the money you made from that championship. I think that's fair. Another fair thing, remember, George Steinbrenner, owner of the Yankees, was suspended from baseball but was still allowed to own the team. They might do a similar thing with Jim Crane and the Astros. They might say, hey, you can own the team and make the profits, but you cannot be involved in any way. You can't go to the stadium. You can't go to their games. You can be the owner, but you can't do anything else. So those are just the recent developments there. And in the NHL recently, CJ, I know you've been watching the Florida Panthers. Anything you want to add on them?
I think we lost I think this was our first time losing back-to-back games. It was on a back-to-back. We played Saturday then Sunday. For the Florida Panthers, I don't know what they're going to need to do here, but they're going to have to fix the defense because they are giving up about 4 to 6 goals a night, and they're still in second place in the division.
Yeah,
so
that's not sustainable.
It's not sustainable whatsoever. So if you were a sports bettor in a legal sports betting state and you have bet the over in every single Florida Panthers game this year, you are off to an extremely profitable NHL start. But elsewhere in the NHL, Mike Babcock was fired. We covered that on the Twitter page. But some more stuff came out today, which Jacob and I were speaking about. Mike Babcock was having a rookie Mitch Marner rank his teammates in the locker room. I don't know if it was in front of the team. I don't know if it was in front of the teammates because Mitch Marner in the interview said, I'm really happy that the guys that were in the room were really cool about it and but I just don't know what coach does that. And I honestly don't know if that guy's going to coach in the league again. His coaching habits are just not good. And there's a podcast called Spit and Chicklets. It's a very popular hockey podcast on Barstool. The former NHL players that they have on the show always rip Mike Babcock a new one. So that's hockey right now. I guess that's all the drama that's going on there.
Yeah, and
Connor McDavid's
the Maple Leafs had so much potential, man, and now they have money locked up into 4 guys: Tavares, Austin Matthews, Mitch Marner. I mean, no one's going there. They have no money to spend on other people, and
they'll still make the playoffs, but it's just. 2 years in a row losing Game 7 to Boston Bruins really stunted their growth, in all honesty.
And that's their rival, too, for people that don't follow hockey. They lost to their rival 2 straight years. And as you mentioned, CJ, Edmonton, man, Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl right now,
they're ridiculous.
They might be the new Crosby and Malkin.
Oh, for sure.
But they need to win cups first. They need to win cups first.
They're correct.
But about my Rangers, they had a really entertaining game this weekend against the Montreal Canadiens and won 6-5. The Rangers recently called up Philip Hedl from the AHL, and he is just destroying the league right now. 8 goals, I believe. And they sent down their prospect, Lias Andersson, in exchange for that. He's someone who the Rangers drafted at number 7, and he has been a complete bust. He doesn't do anything right. I mean, he doesn't score goals. He doesn't assist. He doesn't hit people. He's not physical. He was a complete bust of a pick at number 7 for the New York Rangers.
Who was this again? Who was
Lias Andersson.
Lias Andersson. Okay,
he's in the AHL right now. He was supposed to be a top 6 center for the New York Rangers. So, but with that, I think we had a great show today. Thank you, JP, so much for coming on.
My pleasure.
Again, listen to Nonstop Sports. What were you going to say?
Monday Night Football predictions.
Yes, that's right. So tonight we've got Ravens-Rams, right, in L.A. Ravens,
Let me check
think,
out what
undeniably.
the spread is really quick, just so we can factor that in. Pull it up right now.
So we're going to pull up the spread.
This is an interesting game, though.
Yeah.
So Rams are at home, so they are getting 3.5 points. So Ravens minus 3.5. Very close. Very close.
I'm gonna go Ravens by a touchdown.
Okay. I it's going to be interesting to see how much Baltimore wins by. Because, what if they blow this game out?
It could. That
changes things.
If it gets bad early, it's not for the Rams. Their biggest problem has been they cannot play when they're coming back from behind.
Yeah.
Their offense last year was built on running the ball and not making Jared Goff a liability. This year, Todd Gurley's had some problems with his knees. Their offensive line hasn't been very good. And now they're making Jared Goff have to be someone that he's not. If this game gets out of hand early and they're down early and Jared Goff has to throw the ball, it could get ugly.
Yeah, because Robert Woods and Brandon Cooks last year, they were great. They have not been this year.
Yeah.
Cooper Kupp's really been the only reliable guy.
For me, I don't know if you guys remember it. I'm sure you do. That unreal Rams-Saints game last year where it was just a shootout.
Yeah.
They played the Saints, right? It was
Or
Breeze against Goff.
There was another shootout game in the regular season.
Rams and
it was
Chiefs.
Rams-Chiefs.
Yeah.
Rams-Chiefs, too.
That's what it was, yeah.
54.
So, yeah, that's the game I'm thinking of. Sorry, that's the game I'm thinking of. That game,
Rams-Saints was the
unreal.
debacle in the playoffs.
Absolutely unreal game, and I feel like it's going to be another one of those tonight. I don't like the Rams defense. They're Swiss cheese. I think Lamar Jackson's going to run all over them. I think he's going to throw all over them. I think Mark Ingram's going to have a good game. And the thing is Jameis Winston and the Bucs went into LA and they put up what I think it was like 50 points, 55 points. And the Rams still scored 48. I think it's going to be one of those games. It's going to be an unbelievably high-scoring game, electric. I don't think any defenses really contain either offense like crazy to the point where it's like 2 straight non-scoring drives. The point line on the game from Vegas is 47. I think the game goes well over that off the combined scores, but I would take the Ravens. I don't like the 3.5, so I'm just going to say the Ravens straight up.
Okay. All right. That will do it for a great week. Again, thank you, JP, for coming on. Please listen to his show on Wednesday, him and Sawyer and Zach Weinenberger, Wednesday at 4 to 5 p.m. on FAUL Radio called Nonstop Sports. Sadly, I won't be able to attend. I'll be on an airplane going back home for Thanksgiving, but we will be back, CJ, you and I at least, next Monday, December 2nd. We're going to have Mr. Mitch Rochelle, one of my friends, on the show next week.
Oh, boy.
And also, after that, we're going to have to figure out what show comes after that because we got winter break and all that stuff coming after that. So we will update you guys on that. You can follow us on Twitter at Strict Sports FAU. If you didn't get to catch this entire episode live, on that account, we will tweet out the link. And in YouTube, you can also search Strictly Sports with Jacob Browne. It will be the first result that comes up, and the latest episode will be on there. And also, what's your Twitter handle, JP?
My Twitter handle is Acosta32_JP. You can also follow the show, like I said, Nonstop Sports at Sports FAU. I'm not sure if we're going to have a show this Wednesday because normally it's on Wednesdays. We're going to be out of town. We're cooking something up now. We may come in Tuesday. We may do something special for you guys. But yeah, pleasure to be on the show. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming, JP.
Of course, JP.
A lot of fun chopping it up.
All right, guys. So that'll do it. Thank you guys for listening. I am Jacob Browne, and we will see you next time.